What did the wolf say to the bear when they saw the guy with all the pies? Looks like we found our dessert guide. Hello and welcome to Best Motorcycle Roads. I'm Tom.
And I'm Todd. We have over 65 years of combined motorcycling experience and 30 years of planning and riding motorcycle trips. We're here to share with you everything we've learned over those years.
Our goal at Best Motorcycle Roads is simple. Make your next motorcycle trip the best it can be. We dive into technology, planning, packing, routes, other tips, and everything in between.
From essential prep to unforgettable routes, we've got you covered.
Before we kickstart today's journey, we ask you to sign up for our BMR Rider Alerts. It's our way of keeping you in the loop with the latest rides, tips, and stories. We promise no spam, only the essentials to enhance your motorcycle adventures. Join the BMR crew today. We'll put a link in the show notes. This segment about motorcycle gear reviews and tips we call the Toolkit. The toolkit today is simple and hopefully painless.
All right.
We talk a lot of, we throw a lot of things. You got to buy this and spend all this money, but like sometimes there are cheaper options, right? Like seat comfort is one of those. I have an Ultimate seat, and honestly, at about 4 hours, it starts to get a little uncomfortable. And I think part of it is I just need more, probably need a little more core muscle, but you and Brad have used some of these assists, so I have some beads that sit on the seat, which look completely uncomfortable whatsoever. But I think the key to beads on seats is airflow. So I think in the summer, I think they're better. They're a good option. And then one time we were in Wisconsin, and I still forget where, but Turk and I bought the skunk skin.
Oh yeah, the pelts.
The pelts.
Yeah.
And that has the same effect, I think. It's to get more air under your backside, so you kind of get more air flowing. But you and Brad, you ride with a...
Well, I've got the imitation version of the
Airhawk.
Airhawk, yeah. And it's you can put water in it, so it's two options, but I just put air in it. And it's a
I would call it a bunch of mini pillows.
Mini pillows, yeah, that you fill with air, and you don't need much air.
Right.
Because if you actually fill it up too much, then it feels hard, like real firm.
And I suppose that gives you that flexibility.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, so I added that to my seat because I've had the same seat on my bike now for 20... well, however long. That's been 22 years at this point. And, it's broken down a little bit.
Yeah.
So that Airhawk, the imitation version that I bought, it just helps a little bit. It's not like having an Ultimate seat. It's not anything like that. But
it's not $1,000 either.
It's right. I mean, we're talking $100 or less than that.
Right.
So yeah, it's lasted a few years just like that. So I'll go with that until I get a new bike.
I might throw one of those in on this upcoming long trip, because I think just for me, and you've mentioned it many times before, but seating position, feet position, options. And if Turk and I are going to ride a couple thousand miles out and a couple thousand miles back, we're going to want some options.
Yeah.
Because I think, it just gets to be where you're kind of moving and you need to move. So, yeah.
So with the beads, I've never tried those.
Yeah, they're weird at first.
I was going to say, does it feel weird? Do you feel unstable on the seat at all?
Not really.
No.
What you feel is cool. It's cold.
Oh, okay.
And then again, the options, then you take the pelt and put it over those, and you get a different sensation, And then you ride it without the beads and the pelt, and then you get a different kind of feel. So it's kind of nice. You kind of have these different, it's like you said, it's these different positions.
Options and positions.
It's just kind of making your backside tired in a different way, So, yeah. I think this is a great option until you can afford the best option, which is a custom seat. And again, I mean, I wish sometimes some of these manufacturers or these dealers would offer these really nice custom seats with it. It's like, you buy a brand new motorcycle, go in and spend $27,000 and another $1,000, roll in the seat, roll it in, So
yeah. Just take my loan on the whole thing.
Right? You might as well.
RideWise is the section we focus on planning and safety tips. RideWise is the section we focus on planning and safety tips. And we want to talk a little bit about fall riding because that's where, it's going to start to get into the 60s and 50s, and it could get colder than that. So
in the morning, it's a little cool.
Especially in the morning, and that's happened to us quite a few times. So really the things you got to think about are layering, because it's going to be cold to start the morning, and then maybe by mid-afternoon you're going to be, low 70s or mid 70s even. But so really think about layering up, and wicking material, of course, next to your skin is really preferred. But you also have to consider, in the fall, you need something sometimes to break that wind.
Yes.
When it's cold. So, your rain jacket actually on the outside breaks that wind.
It does.
A full leather jacket,
Saran wrap.
Saran wrap would definitely do it. Scuba diving wetsuit if you'd like. But breaking that wind is pretty important. And have a rain suit with you, of course. Because fall, it's an unstable time. It can change, on a dime. And then, I always talk about, on your rain gear, make sure you get one that's got that thin hood that pulls up over, because
I still don't have one.
I know you don't.
I need one.
You pull that thin hood up and then put your helmet on, and then when you stop and it's raining, the water doesn't drain right down your neck, down your back, and into your underwear.
We need to find a rain suit sponsor.
We really do. We talk about this all the time. But get a rain jacket that's got that little thin hood on it. That's a big deal.
And talking about this ride, it's really interesting because this ride that we're going to talk about today, I think, is a planned ride that I think we should look at. Maybe even looking at a fall ride for it, because I think it'd be unbelievable.
It really would.
Right? So we can talk about that later. But when you get in those falls, it's no joke. I mean, you get into northern Minnesota, and you're talking, it's cold. It can get cold at night. And even the next morning, like I think we've talked about this previous, but you start to see a little more moisture or humidity, and then that's on this, and then pretty soon you've got beads and
And I've got, I've got some thicker motorcycle gloves, but honestly, when it starts to get real cold, I'll switch over to ski gloves or snowmobile gloves, and something that's got the big gauntlet that runs up your arm. Really,
this reminds me of a quick story because, I was trying to source motorcycle gloves for us at some point in time, so I was talking to other countries. I had them build me some. There used to be a company called the Hippo Hands, and what it was attached to your, like snowmobiles.
Oh, right,
and you put your hands in them.
In them, yep.
But then there was another, so they made these big gloves, and they're like 2-finger, like it's mittens, not gloves. Oh. Brad got so damn cold on this when we rode down to the Eclipse, because it was raining and cold. It was cold. It was April.
Yeah.
And so I had him with, and he resorted to him. He's like, "These are dumb. I can't do anything, but it works. My hands are warm." So
wow.
But it's true. So you can look at all these different options, and even having a pair of those, like we're riding with crew. he could have a hard time getting to the buttons. But it's true. Like if you can get those in the. Once you get on the interstate, like a lot of times it's raining and nasty and cold. It's not like, oh, let's do some vistas. Let's just get there. And if you have,
thermal undergarments.
Oh yeah.
If you've got some thermals, bring them with.
Just layers.
It's more layers. You might want them in the morning. And you can also get battery operated heated gloves.
Yeah.
Or you can get the those little thermal packs you break and stick in. Those are good to put on the tops of your hands. But electric gloves, electric boot warmers, or even just the thermals to put in there, the toe warmers. And it sounds silly, but putting some earplugs in keeps that cold air that gets in your helmet from kind of getting into your ear canals and making you cold.
When you get a new helmet, a lot of times they'll come with what they call the breath guard, and most of the time people pull it out. But there's two pieces that work well, and that's the breath guard, and then there's a pin shield.
Yeah.
And that pin shield is a shield that goes inside your shield and seals it so that there's moisture can't get up to your part where you're seeing.
That's great.
So it's not the stuff from the outside, it's the inside that it's for.
Yeah, that's perfect.
The next segment is what we call the mile marker. It's our story segment. The mile marker today is talking about this potential Minnesota trip. We just went to Minnesota in 2023. It was a fantastic trip. If you remember, we went backwards because we didn't realize and figure out that there was no rooms in Duluth the first night, so we went backwards. So it's a similar trip. What we're thinking here is hitting Brainerd, Minnesota on maybe the first night. Lots of scenic, hit the Great River Road, our kind of mainstay. And then up by Brainerd, we'd go from Brainerd to Ely. And on the second day, what would be really interesting is around, have you ever heard of Lower Lake Whitefish?
No.
Okay. So that's really close to Brainerd, but there's a nice scenic, the Paul Bunyan Scenic Byway that kind of goes around there. And so I think that would be a cool thing to look at. And then, our new fad or a new thing that we have to is taking pictures with giant sculptures. So the Crosby Serpent Lake is fairly close to Brainerd and offers a giant serpent statue. So,
right.
I mean,
We're there.
why not? Lake Miliax is also a lot of known for its views. I think there's some pretty good elevation there. And so kind of day 2 would be more about riding and seeing roads. Day 3, and I'd never even heard of this before, but in Ely, Minnesota, there's an International Wolf Center and a Northern American Bear Center. Which, again, those could be kind of cool to check out. But also up along the North Shore area is a few things. The Gunflint Trail is kind of that right on the edge of the Superior National Forest. And then also there's a couple notable lighthouses. Split Rock is the one that's up on that side, which is kind of cool. We haven't stopped at many lighthouses on the Minnesota side, a little bit more on the Michigan side. But once in a while, I think it's good. And we've rode that area before, and the scenic outlooks there are just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, I don't know, it's almost like Eastern Seaboard-esque to me when I've seen them. So, Two Harbors would never be complete with Betty's without stopping at Betty's Pies.
Right.
But now, Dave, our friend Dave from up there, he really wants us to try the Rustic Inn Cafe next time. So he's saying better pie. And that is a strong statement.
I was going to say that's hard to beat.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll get to check that on the way back. That's kind of, it would be more north of Grand Harbor, so somewhere on that Gunflint Trail would be where that's at. So there's some cool, if you remember, there's 2 tunnels up there too, which seems weird that there'd be tunnels in Minnesota, but I mean, those bluffs are so big, you cut right through them. Yeah. And,
Yeah, when you're along...
I can't help myself from honking when we're in there either. So.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know, Doppler effect just got me every time. So. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, you're around the Great Lakes, so of course there's going to be...
Huge.
Huge bluffs.
It's very, town to town is very sparse. But when you get there, there's a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't think the plan here would be to stay in Duluth this time, but we have stayed really in that harbor before. There's a couple of hotels in that harbor. Oh man, that's cool. Because you can kind of see the boats coming in and out. And
that's neat.
Smaller boats, not the big ones. But.
Yeah.
Yep. So final day of this kind of day 4 thing would be Winona to Solon back home for us. Great Rivers Bluff State Park is apparently some of the best views around. You've been in Winona. Have you ever been to that state park?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have.
It sounds like it's amazing.
It is fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Back the Great River Road. We talked about the core in the last one, but if we like Mabe so much, we could hit it a second time. Whippy Dip will be closed if we do this in fall,
true.
but the Sugar Bowl is always open.
All right.
If we don't get enough pizza.
Right.
So, I don't know. I mean, when we're looking at some of these, I think it's important for us to take a peek at these scenic routes. And sometimes I see this when we're driving around. Like, around us, we have Highway 6, which is the, what is that, the Great Lincoln? Is it Lincoln High? What do they call that? The Lincoln Highway?
I thought Lincoln Highway. Well,
it's Highway 6.
6, yeah. Okay,
I don't know. I guess it's interesting. I find myself looking at these the signs more. We've talked about the Great River Roads so much to nauseum, but on both sides there's nice placards that kind of show you that you're on there. What is it called? Like near Des Moines, there's a really cool section of Highway 6. It's called the White Post Highway, and it was for safety reasons that they painted the electric poles white because the cars were so poorly lit, the headlights, that people lots of crashes when cars first started because the lights were so bad. So they painted the light poles on each side of the road white. And so that's called the White Post Highway. But there's just all these little eclectic things and these roads. And, you know what? We try to avoid the big cities. We'll get on the interstate and ride through. But if we can find these other ones, there's just so many stories, you know. And you and I have talked about this, just stopping at more of these historical markers. Even if you stop at every 3rd or 5th or 10th one, something happened there that someone took the time to say something.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's like history that kind of gets forgotten. So,
yeah.
You know, we didn't get to do that when we were down in Memphis that time, but there's that one road that's all about the blues. You know, it's like the Great Blues Road, too. The podcast can be found on bestmotorcycleroads.com/podcast. All the information you need will be there. But you can subscribe on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple, Pocket Casts, and YouTube.
This is the interactive segment. We will be looking for input from you. We want you to send us your questions and suggestions for roads, topics, and anything else you have on your mind. Today's Q&A comes from Mark, and this question came in a little while ago, but because we were talking about this, it's perfect. So he's going to plan a ride this summer. He said, should I take the Minnesota North Shore Road or the Great River Road? Yeah. What should I do? Where should I go this summer? Yeah. We've been on them both. I don't know that we haven't ridden from Duluth all the way to Grand Portage.
Well, you missed that trip. We did go around Superior.
Oh, that's right. You guys
we did take it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, how would you answer this?
I would answer that Great River Road all day. I mean, if you're comparing those two roads, there's no comparison at all. The North Shore Road is cool. And I've said this, I think, to you before, but you're so dang close. You know, like when you're up there by Two Harbors, oh my gosh, breathtaking views, scenic bikes. But the rest of it is like, oh, well, I've seen a pine tree like that before, and I can't see the stinking lake, you know. So many of these roads are so, even if you're less than an eighth of a mile away, sometimes you still can't see the lake. For me, the Great River Road is so amazing and so varied, you know, like just, and then jump over on the other side, and it's almost like a completely different ride, you know, and you can see the road you're on. So for me, Great River Road all day. But the North Shore is cool if you haven't seen it before. Yeah, and it's just different. I mean,
that North Shore Road's about 150 miles or something.
It's long. I mean, it's all the way from Duluth all the way up to is it
Grand Portage?
Portage.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's not much in between there. Yeah. But there's some good views. And unfortunately, I think it's getting less and less. And that's how some of these trips that go up. What's that big? The Boy Scouts will go up there and stay on that island. What's it called?
I know what you're talking about.
I'm forgetting what it's called, but. You'll see a lot of trailers and things going up, so they're going to go over across the way. Yeah, that's pretty cool too.
And I don't remember now stats, but how long is Great River Road? Do you know?
I don't know. I should know that.
Sorry, I don't
talk about it so much. I know I was planning to go all the way from the full Mississippi trip, and I was figuring that was going to be close to right around 1,000 miles, I think, or 800 maybe. So, you know, I mean, that's a 2 to 3 day ride based on if you stay off the main highways.
Yep.
So it's quite long, quite a bit longer, probably 4 to 5 times longer. But different views completely, you know.
Oh, absolutely.
Every time I feel like we're up there on that North Shore Road, I feel like I'm cold. Like, it just looks colder, you know. Sometimes it's hotter than heck, but, yeah, it's...
All right,
well, you know, there's more impressive bugs if you're into the mosquitoes. Like those things.
There's some big mosquitoes up there, aren't there?
I remember we were up near there, and it was just like we were stopping. I'm like, well, put that on the ride-wise for next time. Bug soother. I mean, vanilla, whatever, to get those things. Oh my gosh, they were just attacking.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that because I forgot about that. So Great River Road, Mark, that's the one we would highly recommend. I don't know where he's leaving from, so I don't know which is closer, but he's heard us talk about Great River Road, so he was just kind of wondering what would we recommend, and we've been on those both. So Great River Road.
Now we have the last mile. It's our way to close the episode with our reflection. Todd, what are you thinking for today?
Woo! Well, we talked about a lot.
And said nothing. No, I'm kidding.
Said nothing. You know, Tom, I like this this Minnesota route that we're talking about. I mean, of course, been up there, but this is a little bit different.
Yeah.
And
well, I think it's similar to it's kind of similar to what we did last time, but it was raining.
We got so much rain.
2 or 3 of those. Oh, it was terrible.
Yeah, it was raining half of the trip.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I do really like this. And, I mean, there's a little more exploring in Decorah from what I can see. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, that's good. And I just, 2 things I think it's interesting to review. We just literally maybe, like within 3 trips ago, we did this trip. And now we just found more things that are completely different. Almost like you could almost ride the same thing and have a completely different trip. So that's interesting to me. But then secondly, I think just thinking about the longer trips that I'm taking too is I'm thinking a lot about these seat positions that you talked about and pads that we discussed, and just trying to figure out like how do you get all this packed, but yet have all these options. It'll be an interesting trip.
You've got a Goldwing, you've got a whole extra seat. You can pile out.
I definitely have bags for that.
Yeah.
We've talked about this before. Like, I didn't have enough space when we went to the Eclipse trip. I was in trouble. Like, it was bad. Yeah, it was really bad. So I'll have to revamp things a little bit. But no, so yeah, I'm excited to go back. And I don't know, maybe this Serpent Lake statue is probably my biggest thing. So,
all right.
Yeah. If this episode revved up your day, don't keep it to yourself. Like, subscribe, share it with your crew. We're all about the thrill of the ride and the bond it creates.
Keep the spirit of adventure alive, and remember, bikes, friends, and endless roads. The stories ride forever. Take care.